Well, to Vladimir Putin, appointing a new defense minister provides a new building block towards fighting a long war. That was actually evident in Moscow when Andrei R Belousov, an economist who was Mr. Putin's surprise pick to lead Russia's sprawling defense ministry, made his first public appearance in his new role and spoke about bureaucracy rather than the battlefield.
Войска Московского гарнизона к параду Победы готовы. Генерал армии Шойгу.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has replaced his Minister of Defense with an economist, shaking up his national security team for the first time since his invasion of Ukraine and signaling his determination to put Russia's war effort on an economically sustainable footing. Russia asserts that their ballooning defense budget warranted putting an economist in charge, so Andrei R Belousov, long been seen as one of Putin's most trusted economic advisors, will now be the new defense chief. Putin kept Sergei Shoigu in his inner circle, tapping him to run the country's Security Council, a position giving Mr. Shoigu close access to the president but little direct authority. Sergei Shoigu will replace Nikolai Patrushev, a former KGB colleague of Putin.
Очень важно вписать экономику силового блока в экономику страны. Вписать с тем, чтобы она соответствовала динамике нынешнего момента. И второе, наверное, что важно отметить, это сегодня на поле боя побеждает тот, кто открыт, больше открыт для инноваций, больше открыт для максимально оперативного внедренчества. И поэтому, естественно, что на нынешнем этапе президент принял решение, чтобы Министерство обороны возглавил гражданский человек.
While a possible shift in Mr. Shoigu's stature was telegraphed last month when the Russian authorities arrested one of his top deputies on corruption charges, this cabinet shift represents a rare overhaul for Putin, who tends to avoid rash changes, and they could mark a turning point in Russia's more than 2-year war in Ukraine. With the Russian military having gained the battlefield initiative, Putin is signaling a greater willingness to make changes and to show that Russia has the discipline and economic capacity to wage a long war. It is unclear how much authority over the war Mr. Shoigu will retain. While his new job parallels that of the American president's national security advisor, analysts say that in Putin's Russia, the role has limited influence because it does not directly control the military or a security agency. Parmeshwar Bawa for NDTV. Well, joining us for a quick comment to decode Putin's rare cabinet shakeup, we have with us Russia affairs expert Professor Anuradha Chenoy, who's also the former dean of the Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies at JNU. Thank you so much, Professor Chenoy, for making time for us. Is it fair to say that Andrei Belousov's appointment signals Putin's focus on subordinating the country's economy to his military needs in the expectation that a war in Ukraine, or at least a militarized standoff with the West, could shape Russia's future for years to come?
Well, look, this Belousov is an extremely capable and very experienced person within the Russian economic setup. He was in the Soviet Gosplan in the 80s when he was younger. He predicted the 2008 economic crisis.
Right.
He is a statistician, economic statistician, and he will even further rev up the defense and industrial complex. So he will balance, he will not just push the military industrial complex, but he will also balance the growing Russian economy. He is very smart on that. It's a brilliant choice. He's non-corruptible. And Shoigu actually, now the Russian president election was there and Putin was re-elected. It is not that rare to change your cabinet when the president takes oath again. So, and the change is very minor. I think Shoigu has gone into what they call the Russian Defense Council, which means meets every Tuesday. It has all the heads of all the departments, economic and military. So he will be there within the government. But Belousov is very capable, and I think you'll see a spurt in the growth of the Russian economy even more than has been evident in the past 2 years. So he already was tackling the issue of sanctions. You know, the sanctions by the US and the West on Russia have been the largest number of sanctions on any country. They were supposed to be devastating, but they've had the opposite effect. Russian economy is actually surging. The inflation rates are low. There's manufacturing is going up in every aspect, and the sanctions hasn't impacted them. And they're producing more weapons than the entire combined West combined.
Yes.
So their defense industry is doing remarkably well, and it has been shown out on the battlefield theater. And I think our own military experts would say how Russian weaponry, how effective it has been, and how it's been able to demolish NATO weaponry, really. So
well, there's
I
no
think
denying that Putin's
will continue with this, right?
At this point, I don't think there's any denying that Putin's pick actually does reflect an acknowledgement that the military production that is supplying Russia's war and heating its economy must be carefully managed to sustain a war of attrition with Ukraine. In fact, some experts also assert that Putin's priority is war, and war of attrition is only won by economics. But thank you so much, Professor Chenoy, for joining us for that quick comment.